Welcome to this new episode of The Disabled Life. The purpose of this podcast is to tell people how I live my life. The name I'm using on the podcast now is The Disabled Guy, because I felt that you needed to hear something as opposed to just my voice there. I'm a disabled male living in Florida with cerebral palsy. I'm here to tell you how I live my life and some of the volunteer work that I do and how I manage to do it with cerebral palsy. Without further ado, let's go into the episode. What I'm going to talk to you about today is something that I deal with periodically in my life. I have cerebral palsy. Because of cerebral palsy, I ended up with something called scoliosis in my back. What that means is a curvature of your spine. As you get older, when you're younger, it really doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you. But I was talking one day. I was talking to an orthopedic doctor when I was in my teens, before I got released from his care, and he said, "Oh, there comes a point where you're gonna have a back problems." So I'm like, okay. I listened to him, but I didn't pay too much attention because at the time, as teenagers, we would think that we're invincible. At the time, I said, okay. So I stayed there and I listened and whatever. I listened intently, but I didn't believe him. Till one day, I'll tell you a story. Till one day, I don't know how I hurt my back. I was lying in bed one day and it was so hard. It was so painful that you couldn't even touch my back. It would hurt. My nerves were so raw that it would really hurt, even if you were to touch my back. And I'm like, oh God. And then I was completely bedridden almost for a day or two. I think it was a day or 2 or 3 days. And then I started walking around. But I'm like, oh no, my God, it's terrible. And I was taking aspirin and I was doing all these things. Oh no. So alright. So now the reason I came up with this story is because now, as I'm sitting here today on Friday, which I normally don't record on Friday, I threw my back out on Wednesday. When was this? No, on Thursday morning. I went to get up and I had a bad twinge in my back. What I mean by a twinge is that I felt like there was a muscle pull or a twist in the muscle. So I went ahead and for the first thing I did, I told him, hey, I got this going on. Could you help? So she helped me get up out of bed. I took 4 aspirin yesterday. That was so bad. So I didn't want to sit. I didn't want to sit down to record anything because when you're in so much pain, if you move the wrong way, you may make a sound. You may say ouch or something, and that's not something good for a podcast. So what I'm telling you is, I'm grateful that they told me that what it would feel like, but I didn't believe it because don't forget, when we as adults, as young adults, we think that we're invincible, and I tell you, and I say that we do too. I know what pain is, man. I don't like to stay in bed often, but man, I was in pain. I've been in and out of bed all day. It's something horrible. It's annoying because I feel more disabled than I normally am because I'm in bed now sometimes for this week because of the pain. So, but I right now, as a matter of fact, have a patch on my back here, which has helped. And I took aspirin at midnight last night because it was so bad. It was annoying. It was annoying. I took aspirin and that helps to de-inflame your back. But man, I don't like too much of that. So I'm telling you, I'm amazed how doctors with their training can diagnose you and tell you this may happen, and yes, it does happen. Um, I started walking with a weird walker, at 7 years old. I don't remember. So they told me this, and I seen pictures of it. It's a huge, like parallel bars, huge walker. That was my first walker. Right now I use a regular walker, like you see, like the old, like the senior citizens use, but instead of wheels, it's got four legs. I cannot use a wheeled walker. Yeah, it's one of those things where I just know I can't, and I don't do it. It doesn't work for me. So what I'm gonna say here is thank you, doctors, for all the studying you're doing to help us understand our own lives, because it's hard. I know what pain is, man. I've had hip surgeries. I've had all kinds of muscle surgeries, and tendons cut, and etc. So it is a lot. I hate pain because I've had a lot of it in my life. Luckily, I don't have any more surgeries. The last thing I had was I had 2 biopsies. Oh my God, that hurt. It does hurt. After the anesthesia goes away, it hurts. And honestly, I can say it does because I've had it twice. It's something else. Something that I have to say is, for those of us that are disabled, let me go this way. Sometimes they can do certain procedures like biopsies, etc., on people without that. But due to our disabilities, they don't want us to move, so they go ahead and they do a G general. What they used in the, I don't know what they used in the first one for me, but the second biopsy they used something called propofol, and that's a general fast acting general anesthesia. So I'll give you an example. They took me back. Okay, after they had me waiting there in a stretcher during this time. Okay, they had me back. They took me back to a prep area, and then they had me in the surgical center. Then they came and they took me back, and they took me back, and I remember hearing the clock. I heard them playing a little bit of the music that they played because they were listening to the music the employees were. So I heard the clock. The time was 9:30, I think it was. Then when I woke up again, it was 11. And it was funny because there was a person, because I don't know why they thought this, but they thought they made me a fall risk. I don't agree with. I wasn't a fall risk because I wasn't gonna get up, but there was a person sitting there next to me, just watching me. It's weird because I wasn't gonna get up. I can't, because I walk with a walker. If I don't have a walker, I cannot get up. But okay, they did their thing, and I went home. Oh, I remember that time. It was bad because it was painful for 3 days. It was painful for like 3-4 days. And one thing that I had to do is stop taking aspirin. And this happened the first time. They didn't tell me that that I could throw a small clot when I took the aspirin again a week later. So that happened. I'm like, okay, what is going on here? So I took this and I did this. So I did this, and it was funny. I threw the clot, but I kind of figured that it was that. But they should have told me because it's good to scare people. It didn't scare me, so I went to the bathroom again. I threw this little clot, and there was no. And then after that, I went to the bathroom again. There was no more, so I said, okay, it must be that. But what I'm saying is, tell us. They didn't tell me. I didn't ask either. I learned to ask. So it's funny because we as disabled people have lived through a lot of pain and a lot of stuff going on. So it's one of those where you're like, oh God. Well, but I wanted to tell you about this stuff that happened in my life, and because I keep it real with you guys. In closing, let me say thank you for listening to this episode of The Disabled Life. You can follow me on the following platforms. You can follow me at Good Pods. You can leave comments, messages there. You can also follow me on Twitter at The Disabled Guy. And you can also listen to me on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and many others. Once again, thank you for listening, and I'll also give you my email. My email is Kilo Echo 4 Kilo Echo Yankee, or KE4 KEY at gmail.com. Once again, thank you, and thank you for your support, and I'll see you next week.